Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Larkin, one half of the Steve and Mike Show. www.steveandmikeshow.com is up and running, where you can hear such shows as you're about to hear today. This is another edition of On the Mic with Mike, and I am on the line with a very talented wrestler, dominatrix, the one and only Domina, Katarina. Domina, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me on.
You are very welcome. I got to say, I enjoy your work. Where we're going to talk about session wrestling here, modeling, just the whole nine with you. I think you do great, and you accentuate yourself well with what you do. So, like I said, I'm very happy, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, to start us off, how did you get into session wrestling? How did you get into fetish modeling? Just the whole nine. How did that take you into where we are now with you as the dominatrix, being the dominant individual that you are? How did you get into this whole world?
Through the pro dom world, actually my friend Lola Jean, who is a pro dom fetish wrestler, and big time. I mean, her major focus is as a sex educator. She's actually in Europe right now doing, I don't even know what, all sorts of sex educator things. She has classes that she teaches. And sometimes I go and I take them, and sometimes I go and just help out. And she had a pegging class, actually. And she said, if you want to come top, if we need extra tops. I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be fun, So going to a Femdom 101 class, or, a CBT class or whatever, that's just basically fun hanging out with my friends, So I was actually, I don't know if I should be telling the story, but I was actually in the middle of pegging someone, and Lola looked at me and said, wow, you look pretty strong. Do you want to come to a wrestling party? And I was like, okay. So I went to her wrestling party, and I had zero wrestling experience. I wrestled one guy who went boneless. There was no fight, and I went up against one guy who basically tossed me around like I was a tiny, tiny lady, which I am not. And it was so fun. I just laughed the whole time, and went up against some people where, I had to use kind of like my intuition, and see where I could go, see what I could do. And I ended up just kind of having a really great time. And I went to the next wrestling party, and a bunch of people from Doom Maidens were there. And we had a really good time. It was fantastic meeting them. They invited me to try out their practice. And they just welcomed me into their wonderful little world. And it's a fantastic family. It's this Doom crew that that I'm a part of, and that's kind of how I got my start. Just going to practices and training with them, and really just making friends with the awesome people in Doom Maiden. But I definitely owe it to Lola Jean for saying, you want to come to a wrestling party? And me just saying, oh, okay. So now I wouldn't miss a wrestling party at all. And I train a couple times a week. I can't, when I don't train a day, I feel it. I miss it. So wrestling has kind of taken over a little bit for this pro dom.
I will say this, with your training and everything, I think what's great about it is to, obviously when you look at sessions, you see a lot of head scissors being done and just overall joint manipulation, if you will, a little systematic dissection to add to that. So, I mean, you get to add more to your repertoire, so you're constantly on the ground with your training, and I think it shows in your work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I came in with nothing, but, I think people are going to see a big difference. Hopefully, there will be a big difference between my first match against Ursa Fierce and my next match on June 15th against Kaya. Because I've put in a lot of work, and we'll see what happens. The greatest thing about this, though, is even no matter what the outcome of a match is, I never stop laughing. I think it's fun. It's fun. I don't know why I didn't know about this sooner, why I didn't do this sooner.
And I love the camaraderie of it because you're laughing, you're having fun, like you mentioned, with your friends. And now, talking about that wrestle party, just to hit back on that for a second, I've seen a lot of people, like the great Kim Chi is there, a lot of Luxor, Vivi, a lot of great people, like you mentioned, Ursula, the whole nine, Aurelia. There's so many amazing talents at these parties, and so many talents in the session world. I'm very happy to see you a part of that. And what I also wanted to incorporate that is, like, if you want, like you talk about, like, you knew nothing but you came into it. Like, I look at it like, to compare to what we see with wrestling, Trish Stratus, who was in the WWE Hall of Fame, she came from nothing. She was a model, did her thing in the fitness world, and she came into wrestling. She had a little bit of a rough start, but then look at what she became, Hall of Famer. Amazing talent that she is. So you start from the bottom, now you're here. If you want to quote some Drake, started from the bottom, now we're here. So that's, you gotta got that story about you.
Yeah. I mean, I have nowhere to go but up. And yeah, I mean, I have terrific role models, terrific people that are training me. Ursa Fierce is someone that I'm often in practice with. Diablo, Vivi, these are constants during my week. People training me. Aurelia. I love when I get to see Lana. I did some traveling with Kim Chi. I'm learning from some pretty dope people. So.
And I think you absorb that and you take it in. I gotta say this because I know you talked about this, with shout out to Mike Jolly on his show, and he's doing his thing with his podcast. I know he's a fetish and a session wrestler himself. One thing what's great about it is, too, I see the passion that comes from you guys and gals, and this is respect to everybody in the session community. And I know Jennifer Thomas has her event coming up, which Hans from Doom Maidens Wrestling is going to be in there, and I looked at what Doom's doing. You guys are doing it. I got to say this to you because I want to point out, I did see the head scissors you had on Diablo, making him pay, put him in there. I like that. I saw the visuals today. I dug that. That was very cool, so I just wanted to put that over.
Thank you. That was my first mixed wrestling video.
Wow. Okay. Now,
yeah.
Right, as a follow-up to that, I just got to ask, with mixed wrestling, now me being the wrestling fan that I am, now growing up in the 90s, like watching old tapes and just appreciating it, my father was big into it, and that's like how I got into my wrestling fandom. I remember in the 80s, like with mixed wrestling, like everybody talks about, Andy Kaufman and what he did with Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman being the intergender champion of the world. On Saturday Night Live, the infamous David Letterman, where he throws coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So a lot of people, interpret it as like kind of like a comedy shtick, but I mean, you look at it now with what they've done in Mexico and AAA, and I mean, all around with pro wrestling, like intergender wrestling is becoming very, very popular, and it shows and it accentuates the dominance of you women, and just coming at us men. So like I said, you give us a run for your money, and it's always a joy to watch those unique and great dynamics that are those matchups.
And that's kind of part of the fun, I think, for us too. Is women are sort of underestimated when it comes to physical strength. And then here we go. We beat the bricks off you, and you're kind of left stunned. So that's part of the fun.
It is, and I think what it is too. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, you talk about, like, you do, like, your femdom and the dominatrix type of things. Like, me being the pop culture nut that I am, I remember as a kid, oh my god, I must have been like preteen. I remember True Life. For those that remember True Life on MTV, they actually did like a piece on like dominatrix and people that were into like the dominatrix stuff. And I'm like, okay, and I think that's what also applies to this. And this is how it comes full circle and it correlates here, because people are unique. We all are unique. Every human being on planet Earth is very unique. So we get to see what kind of people are into and what they like, and you get to feel people out.
Yeah, and that's what I think is amazing too, because I have met some of the most supportive people in this industry, and for people who say women are catty and this and that, I have met so many women who just support each other and lift each other up. And honestly, and I was actually talking, I did a live stream class, Femdom. I jumped in on her class, Lola Jean's class. Sorry, my brain's going all over the place here right now. But I jumped in on her live stream class, and we were talking about different dominatrices and different types of female domination and female supremacy. And we're all different. We all bring something unique and beautiful. We all have different styles. We all have different looks. We all have different personalities. And that's what makes it so great. There's no competition or jealousy or anything like that, because we're all beautiful. Like we all have our own thing. And it's so, I mean, if you look at my Instagram, I think half of my posts are other people.
Yes.
There are other fetish models, other wrestlers, other doms. my Twitter, because they're doing great things. And I think we have a responsibility, especially if we're talking female supremacy and equality, is to lift each other up.
Exactly. Now, you want to talk about the modeling thing. I want to just focus on modeling because you said the key word with fetish modeling and modeling as a whole. I wanted to bring this up. Now, as a kid, as far as the modeling scene goes, the big one that I remember, and obviously we've seen the work that she's done with America's Next Top Model, Tyra Banks was the big one. Mm-hmm. Naomi Campbell. Now, here's the thing with Naomi Campbell. Like, I was too young. I was probably like a year old when this video came out, but I was, I was in my mommy's. I was out of my mommy's tummy, 92, 93. I'm a 90s baby, young at heart, 27 years old. But I just, growing up and watching In the Closet with Michael Jackson, I remember that video, and then Naomi Campbell being that with Michael Jackson doing their thing. That was a very prominent one. I mean, we see models come from America's Next Top Model. And if you want to look at it now, because, unfortunately we live in a world where, unfortunately, fat shaming is a thing. And personally, like you beautifully described right there, and what I wanted to go on there is, women are beautiful, different shapes and sizes. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the most beautiful women I know is my mother. My mother has raised me to be the man that I am. Say my grandmother, God rest her soul. So you have that appreciation for women, and because, your mother was great to you, you want to treat a woman like your mother treated you. So it has that dynamic, it has that overall relationship to it. And I mean, you look at the modeling world, the plus size modeling, look at Ashley Graham, what she's done. And like I mentioned, Tyra Banks, going back to America's Next Top Model and how we saw, the change of reality television. There's a lot that goes with that. And I think I just wanted to go off of what you said there, because it reigns true.
Yeah, and it boggles my mind sometimes. I remember meeting some plus size models in real life. Mm. And I remember thinking, you're not plus size, you're just tall. Like, there's no, what I don't understand it. But, Tyra Banks, she had a booty. That's, I guess, what made her
yes.
thick. Ashley Graham is fucking hot. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. I think beauty standards, I think we're coming around to appreciate different beauty standards. Rather, I don't want to call them beauty standards, because then it seems like it's a rule. I don't know. I guess I kind of run in circles that appreciate real women and real people. Across genders and across body types.
Oh, of course. I think one of the phrases I use, because it rhymes, and if it rhymes, can you really go wrong? Don't hate, participate. You know what I'm saying? Don't hate, participate.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, we look at it like that, and I mean, there's so many. You know what it is too? I always like to use the keyword art form, because everything in life really is an art form. Like, I remember as a kid, coming home from school, and what would be on channel 2113, and there's The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross, and he's painting the thing, Well, I mean,
it's happy clouds.
Exactly. How that man got into, oh yeah, I'm gonna paint that sky right there in the mountains, and he's getting into the paint. It's like, you have that appreciation. I mean, I know this is kind of a weird analogy, but you follow me, take this ride with me. But how Bob Ross would view those paintings, and how he would create these visuals. It's like how you have to look at women. Are you looking at it? Or are you really looking at it? You know what I'm saying? And I reiterated the beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements, but it adheres to that. Look at it, everything as an art form, and you'll appreciate for the art form that it is.
Absolutely. And sometimes, not all art forms are for everyone, and that's fine, but you got to appreciate it as an art form.
Exactly. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea where the Bob Ross analogy came from. That just legit came into my head.
That was very nice.
Thank
It
you.
made me smile. I was thinking about Bob Ross, and he was all in on those happy clouds.
Oh my God, man. I mean, you, I'll be honest with you. I was a kid watching. I think what the program used to be like, because we're both New Yorkers. I mean, in New York City. I grew up on Long Island. I remember, I remember the joy of painting. I remember watching Arthur the Aardvark, as a kid, which still runs today. So I think that was like on before it or whatever. But I just remember here comes Bob Ross with the joy of painting, and he's painting the happy clouds like you mentioned, the trees, the sky, just everything. It was very peaceful. You know what I'm saying? I remember I love the '90s when VH1 had I Love the '90s, they talked about the joy of painting. And God rest his soul, the man was a genius at what he did. He was very good.
Genius, yeah. Do you remember Pop-Up Video?
Oh, yes. Pop Video. Yep.
Oh, my gosh. That show was genius. That show was amazing. I was addicted to those stupid pop-up videos, those bubbles.
Yes, I remember.
I couldn't stop watching them.
I remember watching Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, and they told you, about the people in the video, never gonna give you up. And then
I loved that show.
It was amazing. Well, there's the thing now. I mean, look at VH1. I mean, reality television has taken over. It's like, can you really call MTV music television anymore?
No,
exactly.
No, that's back when they at least showed some music, yeah.
Exactly. Like, I grew up in the days of TRL, Say What Karaoke, and all these shows, and I mean, they were fun and singled out, even with Chris Hardwick, who now hosts the Talking Dead and all that good stuff. But it's just like, all we got on that channel now is Teen Mom, Catfish the series. Like, we've gone far from the music. I mean, they tried to bring back TRL, but it really didn't work because, I mean, that's not the TRL that we remember. Because I think, the technology is kind of kicked in because everything's so internet oriented now, and everybody's on their phones, and you get all these apps and stuff, which it's good, but it's like if they were in we were in 80s, 90s, what have you, different era. I mean, the kids nowadays wouldn't survive. Like, I'll be honest with you. Here's my thing. I don't know if you saw this on MTV, but it piqued my curiosity being a 90s kid. They had a show called 90s House, and it was a reality show where they all had to compete, but they had to give away their phones, their pagers, and all that stuff, and they had faxes and stuff that we used growing up, right? So the hosts of the show were Lance Bass from NSYNC, which hello, 90s. I mean, 90s pop right there. And the other one was Christina Milian, and I'm like, I kind of had a little problem with this. No disrespect to Christina Milian, but her first album came out in 2000, 2001. That's not the 90s. That's 2000.
That's not the 90s.
Exactly.
If we're gonna be true to the theme.
Correct. And I mean,
right.
I'm watching the show and I'm just like, and I'm just watching these people just crying and just wow, I got to give up my phone stuff. I'm like, they really could not handle just the days of dial-up and all that stuff. They really could handle.
They were crying to give up their phone?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you know, I forget my phone places a lot of times. I've been getting better, but the one night I actually left my apartment. It was kind of like one of those, why don't you get dressed and come out? And I'm like, okay. So I just ran out, and I realized I forgot my phone, and I ended up not coming back home until 3 days later, and I was without my phone for 3 days, and I did not miss it.
You know what it was too? I'll be honest with you, sometimes it annoys me, and I love my father very much, but here's the thing, sometimes my dad can also get a little bit mad, and I've told him this. I said, you were legit one step away from going into, hey, you kids, get off my lawn territory. You need to chill. And my dad, we both need our phones, because we both work. We have stuff that we do on our phones, emails and stuff, for your job, whatever. But when you're at the dinner table, put the phone away. Enjoy dinner.
Well, absolutely. Does your dad text at the table?
Not at the table, but sometimes it's just just put the phone away. Yeah, not all the time. It happens, and it annoys me. Me, I don't need my phone. I just put my phone in my pocket. If I'm done with the meal, whatever. But eat your meal. Don't play and text with your phone. Eat the damn meal.
Yeah. You sound like the dad.
Kind of, sort of, but I mean, here's the thing. I'm an old soul. You know what it was? I grew up, my grandfather, God rest his soul, he passed when I was 9. I just remember because of that camaraderie. I'm in Myrtle Beach now. There's a spot down here called the Spring House. It was it was a family restaurant. Has your traditional pancakes, waffles, and stuff. It was a very nice place. Now it's a Donald's Pancake House, which, okay, I don't even think there's any Spring Houses down here, but anyway. our family came down from the Carolinas, and I just remember sitting there. My mom was there, my aunts, my uncles. Just that, it was just nice, It's a family, breakfast, all having waffles and bagels or whatever they had at the spot. I mean, it's just nice. And then, mind you, this was 2000, and that's like 19 years ago. But still, it's just moments you appreciate.
Yeah. Do you know my father would not even read a text if I sent him one?
Are you serious?
He was so anti-text.
Oh my
He would not acknowledge if I sent him a text.
Okay, so now
I had to call him and tell him what it was that I sent. Even if I sent my mother a text,
mm-hmm.
he'd say like, "Oh, what did she say?" And my mom's like, "No, read your phone." He was so stubborn.
Well, I think what it is too, like we mentioned, old soul, like I'll be honest with you. When I was a senior in high school, and I'll be having my 10-year reunion next year. Good God, I can't believe it's already 10 years. But anyway. So
you're turning from an old soul to just old pretty soon.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me. All right.
27, you got time.
Uh-huh. Whatever. Anyway. So what happened was my senior year of high school, right? Like, I know the Facebook thing was, like, very big. Like, obviously, it was big at colleges in 2004. Like, I've seen The Social Network, like, the movie with Jesse Eisenberg, and I'll admit, it was not a bad movie. It really incorporated, how Mark Zuckerberg was and how the whole Facebook thing came into fruition. But I remember, like, 2009 it being very popular, like, my senior year, because that's when I started my senior year of high school. 2009, everybody had it on their phone, and I didn't have it. And I think one of the girls who I was friends with, her name was Jackie, she was a sophomore at the time. Like, I'll be honest with you, I was one of the seniors that got along with everybody, whether it be, my grade, freshman, junior, sophomore, what have you. I'll talk to you. I'm nice. That's how I roll. And that's how I was raised. So I'm like, I'll talk to you no matter what it is. And we were just chilling. She's like, I want to add you on Facebook. I'm like, I don't have a Facebook. And she, like, legit looked at me like, what? You don't have a Facebook? I'm like, yeah, I don't have a Facebook. She's like, well, why don't you make a Facebook and I'll add you? I said, okay. So I made it, and I'll be honest with you, like, the day I made it, I had, like, 40 friend requests already. I'm like, geez, like, this is gonna start something. I'm like, all right. And then well, now you realize now, like, it helps in a way because, to promote yourself, like podcasts and what have you, to get your point across, and, to talk to people through DMs. I know, like, the traditional email or, just whatever, but it helps, but also it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? It has its faults and its good things about it.
Right. Yeah. It kind of turns into social media kind of turns into its own job in a way. It's like one of those things where when I wake up, I have my coffee and I start going through social media. And then all of a sudden I'll look up and I'll be like, wait, what time is it now? Because when you're going through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and, but I love it. I love being able to keep in touch with people, or just randomly be like, oh yeah, you know what, that person. And just send them a quick message.
Exactly. I'll be honest with you, as far as texts go, like, well, how can I put this? I kind of prefer calling people too, in a way. Like, I'll be honest, I'm gonna have carpal tunnel by the time I put all these texts out. Jeez. Like, and I understand it, like, for the work, and, like, friends want to check in and say, hey, hello, and I mean, but there's just some of the days when it's like, hey, hello, now can I just, like, be left alone? Like, I got stuff to do, and just like when people just get on your nerves and stuff. And not that that's a bad thing, I'm not trying to diss anybody, but it's like, have some common courtesy for the people, please. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Well, I talk to text a lot.
Oh, okay. Since you, all right, we got you.
That saves me. And I send messages on social media a lot. I have a backward sleep schedule. So this is actually my morning. I just ate my egg and cheese panini, and I'm drinking my iced coffee right now. So this is my morning. My bedtime's around like 4 or 5 in the morning. So my window to text people during an appropriate time when they won't get angry, when it's not too late, is very short.
Okay.
Social media has saved me. Email and social media has saved me with communicating.
I have to actually add to that. I love you for that, and I'll tell you why I love you for that, Domina, because I am also a night owl, so I'm probably going to sleep at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So like sometimes, also whether it be like if you have friends in different time zones, it kind of works because if somebody is in Vegas or California, they're 3 hours behind you, so it's like, hey, and I mean, it helps different time
Right?
zones, yeah. But like you're in New York or South Carolina, like I am, like it's still East Coast time, and then they'll be like, why are you texting me at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Right? Yeah. And then too, they see the message and they get it when they get it, and
Exactly.
then they get to it when they get to it.
And that's the beauty part about that as well. So I agree.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
here's the funny thing, because you were talking about New York City. Like most of my family, like I have family in New York and I have family in here in South Carolina, about like an hour away. So what's interesting about it is I have family in Staten Island, Brooklyn. I have family on Long Island where I grew up. Like I'll be honest with you, the school that I went to, Boomer Esiason actually graduated from, East Islip High School. For those that know Boomer Esiason, that was the high school that he graduated from. His pictures are like all over that high school. I used to call that high school the Shrine to Boomer. Like it's not even East Islip High School to me anymore. It's the Shrine to Boomer. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, we get it. It's Boomer. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Boomer rules.
Boomer rules. Like, I mean, I was very, and I try to tell this to people, like, cherish and be blessed with every moments, because like I'm saying, you have to just, every moment, it's a new day, and there's a new moment everywhere, like, to capture and cherish, you know what I'm saying? Just look around and try to find the positive stuff, whatever you're going through. And that's why I always say, like, the term line of communication, because you want to help people out, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to be at a united front. I also use united, not divided. I think that's what we have to have more in this world, and that's why I try to appreciate the things. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, like we mentioned, getting annoyed at stuff and just trying to, have different mentality that's not always, the best mentality. But it's just like, you have to just stay on your path and just go with it.
Absolutely, and there are actual things to get upset about. So the one thing I have found is that life is so much easier when you just let those little nonsense things just sort of slip away. The road rage, or the this or the, just sometimes I feel like people are angry just for the sake of being angry, or throwing shade on social media, or you're calling people out. Sometimes it's just easier just to say, like, okay, you know what, I see you, I know who you are, and I'm just going to live my life. And that, you don't have to, not everything has to be a conflict, and not everything has to be, there are other, I think what it is also too, when you have wonderful things going on in your life, and you have things that are fulfilling, and things that make you happy, you don't want to dilute that with negativity. And sometimes I feel like maybe if people are espousing a lot of negativity, maybe they just need a hobby. I don't know. Maybe take up knitting or bike riding or something. Which, by the way, my new bike helmet and pump just came, so I'm so excited. I'm going to start living that Brooklyn bicycle riding life.
So, all right, two things I will add to that. Number one, you talk about bicycle riding. I kind of have like Queen stuck in my head now. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
I'm afraid of getting murdered by a car on the street. So I've only ever ridden in the park in New York. So I am going to be riding to and fro practice, wrestling practice. So this is my new adventure. So Katarina might be a splat on the street. We don't know yet. To be continued.
Well, I don't want that. And number two, I will say this to you. Like today, as we're recording this, it's a Tuesday. I mean, if you were riding on Saturday, I could have started singing Saturday in the Park, but it's not the 4th of July, so I mean, hey.
That's true. Although I always like to sing Sunday in the Park with George.
Yes. Okay.
And I never practice in the park on Sundays. But that's always the song that comes to my mind, is Sunday in the Park with George.
Yes. Okay. All right. You see, I like this. It's a nice blend. As someone who's very eclectic, I can appreciate that. I mean, music is music. That, going back to art forms, there's so many different art forms of music. So I like that. I like your style. You're welcome. I have to say this to you as well, because, I mean, we were talking about, people with that. So I wanted to put this bluntly. So when you were talking about, I see you. So it's kind of like, in a way, I mean, leave your cares behind. It's got that NFG about it. You're no fucks given this kind of, because you really don't care what your people say. You're staying on your path and you're just riding and grinding and doing what you do.
That's it. That's it. That's the way you got to do it. I mean, I'm happy with myself. I know that, you know, what I'm doing, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. If I have to be okay with who I am and what I've done. And yeah, that's basically, I mean,
Okay,
I don't want to
you're
say
fine.
a whole bunch of like cliches.
Oh no, you're fine. I just
basically what it is.
I just had to get that NFG in there, no fucks given, because I could see as you're saying that, I'm like, but if you want to put it in blunt terms, you're pretty much having the no fucks given.
Absolutely. Zero fucks. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I appreciate that very much, and I appreciate the bluntness, because, you know, as a lot of people say, I'll use a cliche here, honesty is the best policy. You know what I'm saying? Let it out. Be honest. Sometimes it's brutal, but you got to be honest. A little tough love even.
Exactly.
All right. I want to get back to wrestling for a second here, because I look at pro wrestling as you know, we're talking about, you know, session wrestling and, you know, fetish modeling and just being different art forms that they are. With pro wrestling, like, I'll be honest with you, I think the women are kicking ass. There's so many great talents in WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, Japan, the UK, all over. And I think it's great, like, you know, for the international and, you know, us going to the UK or whatever and then coming to America. Regardless, I think it adds a lot to the repertoire, and I think that's very healthy, and that's what we need for professional wrestling as a whole. But I have to say this to you, and I wanted to ask you, Domina, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Pro wrestling and MMA, I love the correlations and tie-ins, because I remember back in the day when Ken Shamrock did it, Tank Abbott, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey that we have now, CM Punk even dabbled into it a little bit, Dan Severn, the list goes on and on. So I have to ask you, what do you think about all these tie-ins with pro wrestling and MMA that we've seen? I mean, two great art forms, all in all. I think it adds a lot to, I'll reiterate, the repertoires of different athletes and different performers. I think it adds a lot. So I wanted to ask, what do you think overall with these pro wrestling MMA tie-ins that we see here today?
I agree. I think it's a pretty natural tie-in. I think it just dovetails nicely into the other. Pro wrestling requires an athleticism, you know, a strength and flexibility, and MMA has that and has, you know, similar. I mean, I don't think you do a camel clutch in MMA, but has similar moves and sort of, you know, that sort of strength. I think it makes sense to have that progression.
Agreed, and I look at it like this too. Like, I'll be honest with you, as a 5-year-old, I'll be honest with you, my grandfather was very big, God rest his soul, into boxing. So I remember I went to sleep because I had to be up early, and then I found out on the news the next day that one Evander Holyfield biting Mike Tyson's ear off. And as a 5-year-old, you really don't understand like what that was about. And then you look at it years later, and it's like, geez. But I remember the first time I actually saw, technically speaking, it was boxing, because there was a boxer involved. Obviously, we've seen Floyd Mayweather, what he's done in the WWE with WrestleMania, and just what Floyd Mayweather's done. But I remember 2007 when they brought back, Saturday Night's Main Event for WWE, Madison Square Garden. Evander Holyfield actually appeared, and he boxed Matt Hardy as a part of the storyline that he was doing with MVP at the time. So I always liked the boxing thing as well, because Muhammad Ali was at the original WrestleMania. You know, him and Antonio Inoki in Japan. I mean, there's so many times with boxing too, and I think if you want to talk about the strength of women, his daughter Layla Ali was kicked ass on the boxing world. So I mean, I always appreciate it, just like how everything tied in together. And I think it helps. I think the working relationships help. I mean, look at Dana White working with Vince McMahon with the Ronda Rousey thing and just being there and supporting her. And that's like, it all goes back and ties into earlier when we were talking about camaraderie and how you work with all these great people, you know, with Doom Maidens Wrestling and, you know, Diablo, Aurelia, Ursa, Lana Luxor, Kimchi, Jennifer Thomas, and what she does in Session goes. There's so many great people, in Lola Jean, not to exempt her from this, but you really have a great team. I think that's what helps.
Absolutely. And you know, not everyone can be an athlete, and not everyone can get the technique and the skills down. Not everyone can be an entertainer. So it really comes. It's amazing when there are people who can do both. You know, obviously Ronda Rousey is someone who kicked so many asses and is now able to sort of show a little bit more of that showmanship, and entertaining. So that's one of the great things about the crew that I'm running with is the personality. Not only are they good at what they do, but they have fun doing it, and it absolutely shows.
Exactly, and I have to say this as well because I'll tie in Jennifer Thomas with this, and we talked about. I know you talked about it with Mike, but as someone who also is a big supporter of as well, I wanted to just add this. I know Mike has talked with you about Lingerie Fighting Championship. I've had the pleasure to interview a lot of great LFC talents. I look at Lingerie Fighting Championship as, and this is where we'll tie it back to MMA. It's like Invicta, because women's mixed martial arts, Victor is, the owner is Shannon Knapp. We've seen a lot of people come from Invicta. For example, Jessamine Duke and Shayna Baszler, who are on NXT right now. So it's like Invicta, but with lingerie. Like, there's so many great talents there that, do their thing. Like, Kim Chi is on the fantasy draft page. Maria Romano, Vixen Romano. Hazel is going to be having her fight real soon. So you see a lot of people there, and I think what's great about there is there's so many, and this will tie in again, MMA training academies you can have there. Greg Frito out in Las Vegas, who was mentored by Floyd Mayweather Sr., does a lot of training with them. I mean, you have a lot of great schools that also help too, whether it be MMA academies, pro wrestling schools, and that's also what helps, the training aspect of it as well. And they also just stay fit and be great shape.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm actually gearing up for a fantasy boxing session soon. So I'm starting to dip my toes into different areas, different fighting styles, and things start kind of fantasy, and then they start getting into like semi-competitive, and then they start, so we'll see where things take me. But yeah, it's always fun to see where session work takes you, and then when you get a taste of something, to see what you like.
Exactly. And I look at it this way too. There's so many great talents in there, many art forms, and I'm going to also include you in this, Domina, because this will all correlate once again. I know I'm using that word a lot, but it does. It helps people. It does. It helps. And there's a lot. And also what's great about here is with these podcasts, we're here to, not just tell stories like we're doing today with telling your story, Domina, but we're here to inspire people and, lend an encouraging word. And if this helps make people's difference, it's really worth it. It's very rewarding at the end of the day. So, I mean, you also have to take, like, with training schools and just people behind the scenes and just with your trainers, what have you, all I got to say is just listen, and, it'll be fine. Just take it from there, just listen, be humble, and stay on your grind and stay on your path like you were doing, Domino. And that's why I appreciate you, and I love your efforts. So I'm just going to tell you straight on, keep on keeping on with what you're doing.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. That's the plan.
Now, I'm going to tell you this. I have a couple final questions I want to ask you, and I'm going to tell you right now. Anytime you want to come back on the show, you are more than welcome to. I had a blast talking to you today.
Thank you. I did too.
All right. So, I know we kind of just did advice, but if you wanted to give advice to anyone who wants to get in, like, for instance, modeling or, fetish modeling, session wrestling, to do what you do and, apply their craft, so to speak, what advice would you give that said person?
Go ahead in and do it, number one. I was always told that my feet are really ugly. I was a dancer, and I was told I had firmer feet, and they were gross. And now people pay me to take pictures of my feet because they're not gross. So don't listen to other people when they tell you things about yourself. And also keep your eyes and ears open. Definitely take advice from other names in the business, but also form your own opinion. If you notice that one person sort of talks shit on other people a whole bunch, maybe gauge, think about how you're gonna let that advice, how much weight you're gonna give that advice, or allow someone to give their opinion, but be open enough to form your own. And just be yourself. Be yourself. Maintain your own boundaries. Don't let anyone don't feel like you have to do a certain thing or be a certain thing. Everyone has different boundaries and limits, and it's perfectly fine. You're not missing out on anything if you keep it within yourself to where you feel empowered at the end of the day, and you're exhibiting that dominance and that strength and that beauty.
Beautifully said once again. And when you talk about beauty, strength, and dominance, I'll heed to what you say. Like you're talking about, they have your ugly feet, but yet people are paying you. You got pictures of your feet. I'm gonna say this: whether you're using your feet, for people to take a picture of them, or you're using your feet and wrapping your legs around someone's head and squeezing them until they can't, be squeezed no more. I gotta tell you this: you're doing a hell of a job with your repertoire, and you're doing a hell of a job at what you're doing. So I gotta say, Domina, more power to you, and that's what I love about you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I just did, like, you can't see it, but I just flexed when I said that. I got real excited.
That's what you want to be. You want to uplifting spirits, man. Like you want to talk about that phrase, uplifting spirits. I just uplifted you. You're lifting yourself up.
Did. I just said thank you and flexed my biceps.
Oh, God.
Sitting on my couch in my living room. No one else around.
Well, I dig that. I'll be honest with you, with the session community, and I give much respect to the guys and gals in it, such as yourself. So I will say this: there's a lot of very beautiful, talented, and very just great bodies and great personalities in the session world. And Domina Katarina is one of them. So please, people, please support session wrestling. Please support fetish modeling. Just support what you love and be happy. And please, I urge you to support Domina Katarina, because she's an amazing talent. And I look forward to doing this again with you. But I want to say this. See, this is where I'm going to step back. Ladies first. It's not just a Queen Latifah song. Ooh, ladies first. There's my pop culture nerdiness coming into fruition there. But anyway, I digress. This is where I let you have the floor, Miss Domina. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Promote your upcoming fight with Kaya. The floor is yours. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay, great. So it's pretty consistent in terms of social media. On Twitter, Instagram, I am the Dom Cat. It's TheDommEKAT. And I'm also on FetLife and Session Girls as the Dom Cat. I'm not really great at checking FetLife, but my email is on Session Girls, thedomcat@gmail.com. I have a website, thedominakatarina.com. And you can contact me through the website if you so choose. Come contact me and let's hang out. Let's have a session. Let's have fun. And and on Doom Maiden's clips for sale, some of my videos are out, and my first mixed wrestling video is out. With the scissor holds against Diablo, and on June 15th I will be in my second competitive match, this time against Kaya, and we'll see how that goes, and that'll be released on Clips for Sale as well.
I know you two will tear it down, and I look forward to seeing that as well. So what I'm also going to do, Domino, is I'm going to put the your links in your website, and I'm also going to put, besides Twitter, Instagram, and I've also put Doom Maiden's Twitter in there. Everybody can check her out on Doom Maiden, so everybody can check out Miss Domina Katarina, and I'm going to say, people, please check her out, and once again, to reiterate, please check out everybody in the session world who's just killing it and just doing what they do, and it always puts a smile on my face. We're evoking a lot of emotions here, and that's what it's about. So I got to say this to you, Miss Katarina. Thank you so much for your time. And do you have any final words for the people?
Just keep kicking ass and supporting those who, are giving you their time and energy.
So with beauty, strength, and dominance, we have a woman here that exudes and accentuates all three of those. And it's been a blast having this conversation. I look forward to doing it again. And I hope anybody who listens to this is inspired and just enjoys the content. And I really do enjoy what I do. And I got to say, you make my job easier. So on that note, I will thank you very much for that.
Thank Thank you. Hey, you made me flex.
My goodness. But I will say this, Domina, thank you so much for your time. And for Domina, Katarina, my name is Michael Larkin. Thank you so much for your time. This concludes another edition of On the Mic with Mike, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace out, everybody.